So yes, hello, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to a little BPMN Clinic. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, our tradition is, of course, to have a beer with every model that we look at. So this helps us and encourages us to get as much done in as short amount of time as possible. And yeah, we got a whole bunch of models submitted to us, and we also scoured the Camunda forums to see what models were posted, and we picked a few of them to talk through. The reasons we picked them are usually because they were either funny or they had a very, very common problem with them. And actually, in order to prepare for this, we did very little preparation beyond picking the models. So essentially, what you'll see is myself and Thomas just chatting about a model. Basically, for the first time that we've looked at it, we generally glanced at the ideas, and that's basically it. So, and of course, I would love you, lovely people, to add your own feedback as well. If you see something that you don't think works, BPMN is very complex. And while I've been teaching it for years, I still don't know everything about it, strangely enough. So if you would want to add in the chat there any things you see about the lovely models that we're about to show, that is also very valuable. So yeah, shall we get going, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm back. Hopefully you can understand me now.
Oh, perfectly, as
Of
always.
course,
Yeah.
the technical difficulties must start or must occur in the beginning. So happy that you hear me, and a toast to this fun BPMN clinic.
Yep.
Niall, you've said already everything I wanted to add there. So yeah, from my point of view, we are good to go. For the audience, keep in mind there is about 20 seconds delay between what you will see and what we are actually talking about. So if you send something in the comments, it will for sure arrive at some point in time, but maybe 20 seconds late. Just as a little reminder, so you are aware of that. Yeah, so I think without further ado, we can get started. So let's take a look on the first model. I will quickly share the screen here. So, oh, Niall, you've provided already a fun little one about today's workshop.
Yeah, just in case people are wondering about listening to we can you can listen and watch in parallel. But the really important part of this model is slightly hidden, which is of course the event-based gateway. Because as I predicted, something will go wrong. We'll have a little cry, and then we'll hope it doesn't happen again. So now, luckily, we've already experienced that, so I don't need this anymore. So let's get rid of it. Okay, so that's just our model. The first one here, let's get rid of that one is well, here it is. This is what we have. Thomas, do you want to tell me about this one? You selected it.
Of course, yeah, I'm happy to talk you through. So, this model is all about doing some business activity in a subprocess. So you can see at first glance, it seemed like you have process or process pool, which is divided into two kind of swim lanes, but this is actually not the case. So these are completely separated from each other. And then after having started the main process, we are going to execute sub-process where we first of all run through an exclusive gateway, and afterwards we have this some business activity task before you then reach another exclusive gateway, which continues into the void or into a timer event, which will basically trigger the next iteration of that, yeah, that loop more or less.
Mm.
There are two events linked to that subprocess, so another timer event to break the loop after some time, and also a message end event to break the loop when the subprocess finish, and then the process ends. So looks fairly interesting. And down below there's the other process pool I was talking about, the subprocess 123, which just starts with the message event and executes some business activity and breaks the external loop. So otherwise we don't have any context, which is quite weird, but yeah.
So yeah, indeed. And the reason that we're actually in the model here now, we're going to use Kavimo in a few seconds to actually improve it. But the reason we're here is because we have token simulation already here. And one of the things that's actually quite interesting about this model that when we first started it is if I click this button, it'll create a token. You can see here in this random little sub process here that it works by sending a process and it goes forth. Brilliant. This one is more interesting because one of the interesting things and one of the really common things that happen is that if I click this, oh, it finished. How incredibly strange. What a very odd thing to see happening in the model. Why? What is token simulation broken? Well, no, it's actually not. It's just that you can probably see this little arrowhead is pointing here. There's an arrowhead here. There's no arrowhead there. So this is something that is very subtle. But if we just move that slightly this way, we have this sneaky little chap right here. So for the sake of token simulation, I'm going to start by removing that, and that is an error worth discussing, I think, in the future. But it's a problem with overlaying symbols. It happens fairly frequently, actually. Always look out for the arrowhead. That'll give you a clue. So let's do this and let's run it. So what should happen, as Thomas said, is we start the process, we arrive in the sub process, we then have this infinite loop, basically, where we will infinitely spin around in circles until one of these two things happens. Um, let's say a message comes in, great, and now we finished. That seems a bit odd. So there's a lot going on here, and I'm going to spin over to Kavimo here, where hopefully everyone can see me. And we're actually going to talk through some of the immediate issues with this. Let's first of all create a milestone so that we can look back on all our success. Call this bad model. And great. So Thomas has joined me when he talks about stuff he's going to be using the color blue, I guess. Do you want to show how that works, Thomas?
Yeah, for sure. So just for your information, I noticed that I'm a bit out of sync, um, but nevertheless, I think you can hear me in time. And I think my machine is very busy with sending the live stream, so now you can also see me pointing at the model. Um, Hopefully, it doesn't matter too much for you. At least,
I think it's pretty good. We can hear you perfectly on time. So
okay,
whenever
that's good.
Thomas is talking about stuff, look at where his glowing blue ball is, and then I am another color.
Yep.
So, so Thomas, where do we start with this lovely thing? Yeah.
Yeah. I think first of all, let's try to also make the change you've done so far. So let's just remove our little um, intermediate step here and connect our start event to the subprocess. And of course,
Mm,
since I'm kind of a BPMN or kind of strict in what BPMN is all about, we should give it a name. So the start events does, for the sake of readability, does need a name, at least for me. Both of them actually in here. So maybe let's just say, to keep it simple, start of the business process. We don't know whether an event occurred before or something which triggered the process, but for sure we can take this as a starting point. And then we are going to go into the sub-process, which is all about some business activities. So let's take it business execution loop or something like this, right? Giving things labels is always good to have, at least in my opinion, because BPMN is not all about automation. It's all about creating some readable diagrams
mm.
which can be read by basically anyone, either developers or business people. Yep. The other start event is of course start business loop, and then we can continue to our exclusive gateway, which leads us to the some business or which leads to some business activity. So what is there going to happen? My assumption would actually be that we are going to call the little sub process which is separated in the other pool there. So
Mm.
I would assume that we want to call the sub process down there. Or what do you think about this?
I mean, as good a guess as any. I mean, they're both called some business activity, and it looks like it has some loop thing there. So yeah, let's assume for this case that this lovely thing here actually calls this sub process. That seems to make sense. It is the only task in this entire process, so it's the likely story, I would say.
Okay, then I'm going to change now the or this task to be a call activity. Um, and now we are calling basically the sub process down here. And I
Hmm.
also will rename it to call sub process 1, 2, 3. For that
Looking
one,
good.
yeah, we don't need, I think, like message start event is not now applicable anymore. Um, and of course, we are then executing some business activity. Let's assume it's a service task because I want to give it a label or a task type as well. And once we have done so, oops, also giving it some names, start the sub process and end the sub process, we are good to go. I think, oh no, damn it, now I've deleted the wrong thing, as usual. Um,
Good job. Good job.
yeah, now that looks way clearer. And as far as I can understand, so there was kind of the note about, maybe let's go a few steps back, about break external loop. So I think what
Mm.
could be meant by this is actually break the loop when subprocess finished. So we do have the same thing, or this a similar node up here, so I can see some similarity between those. So my assumption would be, why not, after having executed the subprocess, just end the parent subprocess and continue with the overall process, basically going to this end event. So we don't even need the kind of message, the yeah, the message
Well,
event we've got
I
there.
think so, but let's assume that this break end of loop thingy is just leaving the sub process, because otherwise you
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't even need any of this, right? Because
Yeah.
and it would only ever run once, right? So if we make this a message event, that actually still wouldn't work, would it? So let's assume that
Nope.
after each iteration, they want to trigger this potentially,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we go through here, we call the sub process, we do some stuff, and potentially after doing this task, we then realize we actually don't want to keep looping around. We want to cancel the loop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm particularly interested in going down to this. I think they've over engineered something that you can do incredibly easily, actually, in a different way. If we assume that the goal is that we have a loop that goes infinite amount of times until a specific condition is met, which is what it appears to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then they've done it in a way that if they wanted to implement it this way, they would probably need to add an XOR here, because in some cases they were going to need to.
Yeah.
And the problem is they cannot use a message event here because that is against the standard. Because you cannot send a message to your own scope, you must send it out of the scope. Theoretically, this might actually work because it's a sub process, but you still shouldn't do it. Plus, you have a much better option here. If we say we're going to do this activity, and in some cases we'll continue the loop. Actually, this should be continue the loop. Continue the loop. And this can be ending the loop. We can't use a message, but we can use a much better symbol, a way cooler symbol, a symbol that reminds me of the Starship Enterprise. That's right. We can use the escalation event, because
Woohoo.
this can then trigger out of the sub process and then show up here and then be caught. So now we have the ability to throw this event sub process. It then
Mm-hmm.
throws to here. There's no boundary event here, so it doesn't get caught. So it goes to the next scope, which is the sub process, and that has this guy right here. And of course, to fix Pearl Thomas's heart, I'm also going to add an end event,
Yoo-hoo.
because that is a hard thing to watch, a random potential sub process there.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be something like, um, let's say, cancelled. Uh, we also have the timer, which I'll also add end event to.
Mm-hmm.
Time uh, be cancelled after time. And then this chappy here is just on his own, just doing that. Okay, so that's a little better. But this is probably going in a way of, I'm attempting to model exactly what the person probably wanted to see happen, but that's not necessarily the most efficient way to fix this model. I think there
Yeah.
is a lot fewer symbols and a lot more sort of combining of symbols could be used here. Thomas, do you have any suggestions of how to change anything there to make it a little easier?
So for me, I wouldn't even actually use the business execution loop subprocess we do have overall here, because I
Hmm?
don't see like providing or that this one provides some kind of benefit to us, especially since we do use another call activity in there. So it just seemed like to be a doubled enclosure, which is not necessary,
Hmm?
or some doubled hierarchy, which is to my eye not necessary. And I do also just want to mention that the business execution loop there does not contain an end event yet. So, right, we just,
Well, yeah, it's an infinite loop. Yeah,
yeah, it's an infinite loop.
there's
And
no way of exiting. Yeah.
I really dislike this. So, I just cannot say how much I don't like. Just looking at it gives me, ooh, I don't want to have it that way. So we for sure should change that,
I'm going
either
to give
by
Thomas a heart attack now, but I'm going to remove the end event here. Just nice.
you don't. I should make your tile a bit bigger so people can see what you're
Oh,
actually
that's okay.
looking at.
The joke is not worth that.
Oh, okay, great. Um, yeah. So what would you propose then? Should we just remove this business execution loop and add everything into one main process and then?
Let me actually make a quick change. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to make it, and then I
Hmm.
want to get your feedback on it. Okay.
Oh
So
yeah,
the
for
first
sure.
idea would be I'm just going to grab this, and I'm just going to copy that out and just put it somewhere else. So let's just drag this and put it out here. Great. And then I'm going to now this is going to be fun because this is this is real expert level Camunda stuff where you're trying to copy and paste and drag stuff around. So let's see.
It looks
It's
wild.
enjoy.
As
It'll be fixed
promised
in a
in the video
second.
description, it's going to like be a wild journey.
Yeah, so let's kill that and connect those two. Fantastic. Let's connect this to this, and then this sequence flow needs to go away. And let's connect those two back over here. Let's delete this. Marvelous. Let's delete this and this. Let's move this to this. There we go. Okay.
That's a really small change of yours.
Yeah, it's a teeny change that I'm just going to make real quick. Don't worry about it. Okay, now I'm going to quickly save a milestone here at this point.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so removed most things. Okay, so basically, I'm pretty sure you saw all the random thing I did. It's important to move this apart. So, can you give me, without me explaining what I've done, you want to tell me what you think of this change?
Yeah. So that's I really like this. So you have added this multi sequence subprocess there. So now we do have like a parallel kind of parallel execution, or is it the parallel one? Yeah, it should be,
This
or
one's
is it
parallel.
the
Probably shouldn't be.
sequential?
It should be sequential,
Let me
actually.
quickly check.
There we go.
Oh
There we go.
no. Oh yeah, now it is. So yeah, we are going to trigger off the main process, and then we are going to call the subprocess 123 x times, depending on how many items in the list we, for instance, got. And then for each of them, we are executing the subprocess down here, where we then execute for each item in the list the subprocess. And that for
Mhm.
sure reduces the complexity by a lot. And as soon as we have like found the correct entry or something like this, we can right away continue to here and cancel the subprocess or end the subprocess. Um,
Mm.
maybe we should call it differently. Like we do for sure need to have a description or some labels for the exclusive gateway, and this escalation is actually the thing we expect because we are looking for it. So maybe it's not cancelled, but it's like being successful or something like this. I think it
That's an
would rather be
interesting
a good
point.
fit.
Yeah,
Um,
let's
so
model that.
labeling wise, I think there's still room for some improvement here. I'm also like just removing some of the comments which are not attached anymore. I think we don't need them anymore
Mm.
for just explaining what this model is all about. Um, so I'm just entering the the condition for the exclusive gateway. So let's just say when it's successful, we either continue to with a loop, so it's not successful, or it is successful, and then we do run through the escalation. Um, and I would keep it like this, or would you actually plan to set a breakout condition um, for the come on,
Well,
multi-instance
he-
process
here's the
subprocess?
issue. Yeah, so if we have a certain so the previous example would have been able to run forever, right? Under a condition, not a set number of stuff.
Yep.
This can only run for a set number. Now the thing is, this thing is still valid because this is actually, I mean, item not found is this end event, right? Because
Oh
this is
yeah.
this is what triggers when we've run through everything and never actually triggered the escalation.
Yep.
So I can
Indeed.
move that down here.
Oh yeah, that looks way nicer.
So
Indeed.
now we have the happy path. It's really important to model this way. Even though this looks a bit bonkers, it's really important to be able to say, here is my happy path in every model and look right across. Because while this is a weird thing, this is actually the intended consequences of this model. And I think that might be okay, actually. I think we've done a pretty okay model here. What are your thoughts?
I think so too. Yeah, that's true. I do like it at least. Um, Maybe we can just create another milestone and then jump back into the milestone history to see how it differs from the one we've created in the beginning. Um, let's see how much
Okay,
complexity we
let's do
manage
a
to
quick
reduce.
comparison to see if
Yeah.
anything is left from the original model. This is very much a Ship of Theseus style thing where, um, okay, there we go. So there's the original. We then created, I changed some stuff around. I just removed, whoa, so this is very different.
Hmm.
So we see we have edited absolutely every symbol because Thomas loves his naming conventions. We didn't edit the timer. That's the one thing we didn't do. It's the one thing that survives
Oh,
in
damn
this
it.
Ship of Theseus model is the timer. Is it the
Yeah.
same model? Who knows? So yeah, so we definitely changed a lot of stuff. Okay, let's spin along to the next one, shall we?
Let's go.
Are there any interesting comments yet coming through that about this model that might be worth mentioning?
So Marcus, I think, who's watching the stream, so hello to Marcus. He said that you wrote his favorite commit message, so congrats to that. Remove most of things is just top.
I
Cool.
think it's there's a saying that like uh, what's it? An artist is done when there's nothing left to add, and an
Oh,
engineer is done when there's nothing left to take away. And I think I have taken away absolutely everything I can from this model.
perfect.
So let's spin right along to this lovely creation. Let's turn token simulation on. So I just realized we spent like 20 minutes talking about that one model.
Oh yeah, it can last. It can take a very long time until you got a model right, especially if you need to understand it. So let's see how far we get today.
Yeah. So this is a great one. This is loads of parallel gateways, which means insanity it can only go badly. So let's take a look at this model. So this is a model that was submitted. It's got a naming convention that, again, I'm sure Thomas is not entirely happy with. But the symbols look connected okay. Actually, unlike the previous model, which had some legitimate issues, if you remember, with missing end events and this infinite loop thing and this subprocess being odd. This one here, actually, I gotta say, symbols are connected up more or less correctly. So let's talk through exactly what is going to happen here. So if I start our process, we have a parallel gateway. They go here and here. Okay, so now at this point, we have three tokens all waiting in parallel. In this case, this, I guess, is a user task. Meanwhile, we have two waiting receive tasks at the same time here. So assuming the user task gets completed first, it may not be completed. It may just be triggered by a signal from somewhere, who knows? And potentially it could end up going, if I go here, up to this yes branch, send a message, and then basically finish. And because of the way BPMN works, just because a single token has gone does not mean the process has ended. We still have two fresh and happy tokens right here. Once this first message comes in, great, we are done. And once the next one comes in, we are also done. And then we finish up. Okay, so this seems
Love it.
pretty okay, actually. This isn't nothing jumps out as being particularly bad initially. I think there's a lot of maybe potentially too much verbose stuff, which is obviously I'd like deleting things, so it's
You should
my
wait
joy.
for the question though. So um,
Yeah,
the question makes everything way more complicated. So it's about I have two parallel flows, and one of them has an exclusive gateway. I
yeah.
start this fragment of the flow in 1, 2, and 3. But if some error occurs inside 4 and 5, a rollback would take me back to 1,
Hmm.
which is like
Oh,
not visible so far. It's not modeled. I think
yeah,
like
gotcha.
I also when I modeled this process from a picture, I had only the snippet you can see in the like surrounded
Hmm.
box. So the rest, I'm not sure what comes up front or what comes afterwards. But
Yeah,
nevertheless, I think what the person meant is actually that the signal event, the signal boundary event,
yeah.
is used to throw a signal in case something has gone wrong. And then I think the assumption was that the process starts at 1 again and continues from 1 again onwards, um, which seems to be very, very weird. So, nevertheless, what we want, or the problem we want to solve here, is when a problem at 4 or 5 occurs. We want to
Yes.
roll back to the start before our first parallel gateway. So we want the process to start there in order to also once again process 2 and 3.
Okay, that seems reasonable enough. Okay, so there's lots of options here. The thing that makes this the most fun is, of course, this thing here needs to be completely unaffected by whatever happens up here. So scoping for this is incredibly important. So that means an error at the moment, if this threw a BPMN error or this or any kind of like error they want to catch, this is actually going to end the process. So that's a problem, obviously, immediately. As before, this lovely thing here, Thomas. Do you want to explain why this is here?
That's here
Um,
because I just wanted to like to separate the view or the model I've got. Like I only saw what's surrounded by this box. I didn't saw the rest. I just made some assumptions and added end
that's
and start
marvelous.
events because they haven't been included. So that was already like some pre-arrangement done by myself to make at least some sense of it. Um, because
Okay,
there
that's
was an
great.
ingoing sequence flow to the parallel gateway, but in the picture sent to us, I couldn't identify what that start event was or what that event in front of the first parallel
Hmm.
was.
I think you're right. It's probably out of scope, so we'll just assume this is our model. So the first thing I thought of, Thomas, and you can tell me what you think, is to use to scope these two. These two
Oh
can
yeah,
throw an error. So the very first thing I thought of was I want to throw these into a subprocess to ensure that I'm able to catch any error that might occur, right?
exactly. Yeah, that's a perfect idea. Another thing I could actually imagine would be to use some kind of event-based subprocess which gets triggered when
Mm.
some kind of error occurs. Um,
Yeah, let's talk about that actually.
and
'Cause
also maybe
yeah.
make a bit use of a termination event in addition to this, and in order
Mm.
to restart a new process or something weird. Um,
So obviously, I've gone on record multiple times as saying the event subprocess, which you just mentioned, is by far my favorite symbol
oh yeah,
in all of Camunda, or not Camunda, BPMN. Well, Camunda as well because I'm a developer first, so this solves all problems for me. This is the one time where I actually would not suggest using it, and it's quite rare that I would do that. But one of the big problems with the event sub process in this case is, and it's in particular with what they've written here, is they want to maintain the current context of what's going on, right? After an error gets thrown, right? They want to keep these things alive and they just want to
but
go back to one, right?
I'm really wondering. Like they also want to execute 2 and 3, so they want to roll back and start at 1, 2, 3 again. The thing
Mm.
I'm struggling with is yeah, when we like we for sure just need to roll back like everything
Yeah,
because we
I completely agree. There's a few interesting options here because we could have a state where let's go to a simulation. We could have a state
Okay.
where we send some tokens. We have two here. One message actually gets received,
Hmm.
right? And then an error occurs here, right?
Exactly. And then we
And then
want
we
to
have a
roll
problem because
back.
we've got this
Yeah.
unaligned state. That's pretty bad. And we don't want to do that. And so there's a few different options we have. So the first of all, I don't think that killing this is a good idea. Adding this is a good idea because I think they said roll back, right?
Indeed, they did say so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we have two parallel flows. One of the next is sort of, but if the same occurs, roll back, take me back to one.
The
So
question is
it,
how the rollback, how they want to take care of the rollback. Not sure what messages they are expecting there, right?
mm,
I could also, like in the error event-based subprocess, basically call some kind of task which takes care about all the rollback for me.
yeah.
Some kind of service which then uses the process variable, for instance, the business
Mm.
key, and then continues from then on, and
So
just resolves the problem.
I've got a weird idea. So let's because I'm kind of mildly obsessed with keeping this. So not creating a new process instance. I'm just
Okay.
interested in just if I wanted to keep the current context of everything because I want to know things like did this get cancelled? How many times did this instance have to run? That kind of gets lost when you create a new instance. So I'd be interested in trying keeping all that data. So instead, I would create an error boundary event here. I don't do that. And oh no, I've done it. Oh, that's how it happened in the previous
Ooh,
model.
sneaky.
I knew it was our problem. Okay, so now bear with me. Um, this is going to throw a signal. Yeah, cool. Okay, so here's the first thing is an error can occur between 4 or 5, and we know they want to go back to 1, right?
Yep.
So let's assume that this is a user task. So there's not usually much to roll back for a user task, right? It's usually
Agreed.
just redisplaying the data again.
Hmm.
So I'm going to assume we don't need to actually do any execution. But we do have the problem down here of, well, we need to reset this,
Hmm.
right? So how do we
Exactly.
do that? Now, here's my dumb idea. So bear with me. Let me get rid of this for a moment. I'm going to use another subprocess because apparently that's my favorite symbol today. And I'm going to just do this. Great. Why does it keep giving me that weird dog leg? Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, there we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a signal catch. Um, better idea. Oh, okay. No, now I've got it. Okay, it's great. I've actually got this actually creates another problem, but we can solve that problem after.
So now
Um,
you're catching the signal, and from then on you can trigger the.
okay,
Interesting.
so here's my idea,
Shoot it.
and it is not normal. So what could happen is an error gets thrown. Let's say reset messages. So an error gets thrown either here or here, right? Then it gets caught and interrupts the other one. Whichever one didn't throw an error is going to be interrupted. The next thing is that it then triggers the reset message before going back, and the reset will basically be caught here and interrupt any either finished like tokens waiting here or the token here,
Hmm.
and then it'll go back in and reactivate it.
Hmm.
So, what are your thoughts about this mess? It's got loads of problems, but give me one of them to try and.
Um, First of all, my question would be whether we can now remove the like the
Oh, this.
rip signal event up here.
Oh, for
I
sure.
don't think we need it anymore because it just makes things weird now.
Yep.
But still, I've got a question in terms of rollback. So we haven't compensated anything so far.
Yes,
The
correct.
question is whether we should add some kind of compensation to what we've got here, or like, what do you think? I'm really not happy about the signal situation, to be honest.
Okay, give me something better. Come
Ah,
on, give me your best shot.
yeah, for sure. I will first of all add an end event here in the end. Um,
Oh, that's good.
very
Sorry, yeah, I
unhappy
did that.
about that not being there. I
I'm gonna
don't will
create a
now add.
milestone.
I won't add labels for now, so won't bother you with that. I think I've proven my point already.
Okay,
um,
before Thomas fixes it is the name of this. Try to hold back on the messages until you fix it
ooh,
correctly. Okay,
oh
let's
damn it!
let's see your best shot. Do
Oh
you want me to
damn it!
redo the model of the previous version, or do you want to change this one?
No, I will work from here on. But it's a really hard one, I think. So let's assume something goes wrong in 4 and 5. We do have an error which occurred. So first of all, there's this kind of standard or this guideline which tells you that you only should model from the left to the right. Um, as you already might know, I'm very I do like standards and or those guidelines. So we do have an error which occurred, and I'm happy with that. But now, why can't I just say? I will remove certain points for now. Why can I not say? Ooh, I do want to compensation, or I want to throw a compensation event, and I want then to catch this compensation event. So, for instance, I do have those two parallel message
Yeah.
receive events down here. Um, and I want to add some compensation there because, like, especially when we talk about Camunda Platform 7 and they want to automate this, they can always use task listeners, right? And when they have kind of established a task listener or some kind of execution listener for these cases down here, um, even though like only a message should have been received, they could have processed some other stuff, for instance, stored things into their database. And we need to make sure that this didn't happen.
Hmm?
And therefore, I would once again then catch kind of these things here. Oh no, where is it? Compensation boundary event. Adding it to here as well. And from then on, I'll just have some kind of service task which does the compensation. Yeah, indeed. So the same applies to the one above as well. Let's quickly add this. Now it looks very bad. Going to change
It's getting
everything.
better.
Oh, oh
What
no,
if
it's
both
getting worse.
messages? What if both messages are complete by the time this fails?
Good idea. Ah, damn it, you're right.
How did this happen?
Oh no, I hate that. um, since you were mentioning it, what's your idea there? Do you have already a plan about it? How
No, no,
you
I just
you would
noticed a
cope with?
problem. I mean, I'm here to give you problems, Thomas,
Oh
not
damn it! I
necessarily
hate
the
it. I
solution.
hate it. Um,
Well, you can.
mm,
There are. I mean, there's a cheap and nasty way of doing it, which would be to have a compensation on the
yeah,
boundary of the sub process, but that's pretty messy. That would actually work, but only if
it
both were
is.
completed.
It is. Maybe let's edit for now and see whether we can find anything better later on. So I would just call it compensate things. Um, and the next question would be whether we are continuing with a signal or whether we like I do think instead of using signals it can be a good idea to just use an exclusive gateway because signals hide these paths. So I would use something like this, even though it's
I don't
not
know.
beautiful.
I can see some problems with this. So the
That
main
you're
issue is,
waiting for the same message, like especially. Oh yeah, you are right.
yeah, you would actually end up with
Mm,
a possible deadlock because that
indeed.
you could end up then sending multiple tokens both ways because the reason the signal is there is to interrupt any existing tokens.
But what I do not understand is that they want to start again in 1, 2, and 3 in case something in 4 and 5 went wrong. So they for sure want to step through 2 and 3 once again, right? At least from from the description or from the question.
Yeah, I think so. They want to reactivate them, I guess.
So there are 2 new messages coming.
Potentially, yeah.
Hmm. I But in this case, why not using the exclusive gateway? Maybe I would also try to, and maybe would it make it way easier, because having so less information, it's really hard to guess why
Well, you can just
what they want
decide
to
on the
roll back.
information. Don't worry.
So if it's just like waiting for a message, and in case something went wrong, it automatically will trigger, or the message will be triggered automatically again.
Hmm.
I'm really happy to just revert back with the exclusive gateway as I did before, and have some kind of rollback task. We might not
Hmm.
even need it, because what there isn't any kind of activity which really would require some big rollback in case we're really waiting for just messages.
I've got a great idea. I've got a super good idea. Okay,
Shoot
tell
it.
me. Okay, this is gonna be really good. Okay, ready for this? Okay. Now I haven't thought this all the way through, but I'm feeling really good about it. Okay. Pants. Need to get this back. Over there for now. Let's. Okay, so this is where it's at. This is the game. Okay.
Pure chaos. I
No,
love how it looks like.
this is mild chaos between the sections of order. Um, what about this? Because this would actually work. Because if now,
Oh,
if you interrupt if one of them errors, you then just go back. So
yeah.
I'll model left to right and just go back over here. Don't worry, I got this. This is all good. Okay. It's all right. It's fine. It's fine. Chaos. Okay, so here's my idea. This would work because you don't need to go interrupting multiple subprocess. They're all in one. Just keep them. I don't need this anymore. And yeah,
Oh, you should. Oh, wait. Um, why is the user task there?
just
It
for fun.
was just for fun, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Because they. Hmm,
Because we can't throw an error in here and interrupt everything, but then go back to the user task. So we need
yeah.
it externalized.
Okay.
So the user task does need to be externalized, but everything else can be in the same subprocess. I think
Yep.
that does the
Yep.
trick.
Yep. 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 I think so. Yeah. It looks. It does
Amazing.
look pretty fine.
It actually looks okay. I'm pretty
It
happy with
looks
that.
okay.
So
Yeah.
for the sake of time, I'm going to just create a milestone on this one, and kinda looks fine is our verdict. Uh,
Nice summary. Nice
yeah,
summary. Yeah. Cool.
thank you. And then you can see how the transition went. So we have our original. I then I think added a bunch of sub processes that didn't need to be there. That was my first problem. I shouldn't have added those because then I go and remove them and then we're fine. So yeah, that looks pretty okay actually. That seems
It
like it might
does.
actually work.
Yeah. Better than the previous one. Cool. Then let's go
Okay,
over to Model 3,
yeah,
which
let's
also
do it.
looks pretty fancy. So yeah, Model
Cool.
3,
Okay,
it
bring it.
starts all off with prepare task 1. So we have a preparation task or an activity for preparing the following activity, which is basically sending out a message. Very interesting to see. I would maybe try to unify these, because I don't think, or in my opinion, like preparing task 1 is not a valid standalone activity. So that's the first thing I would do. And then we run into an exclusive gateway, which has a default sequence flow or is going to split up to another parallel one. Let's follow the default sequence flow for 1, where we are going to go to an event-based gateway. And that event-based gateway is either triggered when the task 1, or when we have received a message about task 1 being accepted, when it's being rejected or when the timer went out. And of course, the process has no end events, which I once again hate. um, but besides, like we could easily add this, let's concentrate on what's going to happen when I reject the proposal in task one. So when I reject it, I will continue back to to that parallel gateway, and from then on, I will just continue to prepare task one again. No, I won't. Ha! Because I'm waiting for two tokens to arrive there. So I will never leave that gateway. That's fun. So that's for sure a first deadlock. Next up, I really want to see like when we move from the exclusive gateway up there, when we move down to the parallel one.
Let's do
So
it.
yeah, we now create two tokens, and then we are going to.
Oh, you've gone mute again there.
Oh no,
Oh, you're back. You're back. You're back.
I'm back. Oh, luckily. Um, so yeah, exactly. So we now have with one token reached the event-based gateway. We have increased the time.
Yeah. Which way is that? This way here?
Yep. So that would be one possibility. Another one, accept the task.
Mm,
And now, when we would have rejected the response, we would have the possibility to continue, right?
no, we would not actually,
Please.
because these are two different. Wait, wait. Oh, you're right. One would.
No.
Yes,
Yeah.
but this is forever. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good point.
But still, to
So,
me, it makes not really sense. Like,
see, you're just biased because they have no end events, and that just makes you
oh yeah,
upset.
no.
You
But
can
still,
tell.
like this increased time, why would I only. What's kind of the decision made in that exclusive gateway? Why would
Mm.
I. What is the condition for increasing the time?
Yeah, good point. Let's discuss it. Let's bring up Model 3. Let's create a milestone saying first Durst. Let's go with Durst because why not? I'm all
Cool.
about like owning my mistakes. If I create a
Uh,
typo, that's the new word. Okay, so here we are. So you were talking about this lovely increased time
mm-hmm,
script.
exactly.
Um, yeah, any ideas, like just abstractly what you think might be intended here?
I think when the timer for, or maybe depending on the task, they want to increase the timer. So they have like per default configured a timer, and that's kind of a script just to set the value or to override the value of the timer in case a certain task is triggered. So for instance, they do have the task get paperwork done for marketing. This usually takes like the standard amount of time. But then on the other side, they have like do the accounting for the quarter as a task,
Mm.
and this one takes usually way longer, and they right away want to increase the time, but have
Yeah.
no possibility to do so via sending message or via starting the process with variables. So they
Mm.
require such kind of script to do this for them.
Okay, that makes sense. So I think we can probably implement that somewhere else, right? So I
For
think
sure.
let's actually discuss that. So we are waiting for one, two, three things to happen. Now,
Hmm.
Thomas, I'm going to do you a huge favor right now. I'm just going to do this.
Oh
Just
gosh,
real simple.
it's
Real simple. There we go. Yeah, I figured
I
that
feel
didn't
I
take
feel
long.
just so relieved. Oh
We
gosh.
have end events, people. This is a problem because we also have a implicit parallel gateway. For now, I'm just going to just now. This is already bad, but I'm just going to, as a stopgap, just connect those, just as a reminder to fix it. Okay, so now let's imagine we're at this point because this is the point where things get hairy. So we are waiting for reject or accept or time for response is over.
Yeah.
Um, do you want to talk about how we can integrate this increasing of time?
So for me, I would add it after knowing what kind of task we are taking care about. So I would rather add this kind of increased time earlier than later.
Mm-hmm.
but we could also do it after the timer for the response has reached, and then we can have kind of a check, an exclusive gateway to see whether or not we want to increase the time
Yeah, that makes
or to
sense. I
set a
think
new timer. Yeah.
I'm really I'm interested in the weirdness of the idea that instead of, now this is again, I'm going to do something, I'm going to remove a bunch of symbols now. So this is a timer that is dynamic in some way. We know that because of this task, right? So what if we just, instead of increase time, which is weird because there is a default of some kind, that we just maybe get rid of everything, this, which is my main goal of modeling, apparently, is just delete as much as possible, but we just say set time here,
Mm-hmm.
and then just do this. There's no need to, so then it'll either
Yep.
set the default time or it'll set some other time,
Oh yeah, totally.
so that way it's a little easier to read.
We wouldn't even need an exclusive gateway. Oh, that looks, it looks beautiful.
What you put, I think almost, if it had named end events, I
Oh,
think
in the name start event, but yeah.
so that basically does the trick, I think. I don't know. Okay, the one thing that's a bit weird is the parallel gateway. I think this is really odd.
Why would we need one? I
Why do we
don't.
need them?
I don't think that we really would require one. We could just reject the task and go or continue back to prepare task one.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's get rid
So
of
that's kind of a
this.
nonsense thingy
Get
to
rid of
have there.
this.
Oh no.
Okay, I think this is what you suggested. Then get rid of the task
Yep.
completely.
Exactly.
So now we have two end events. Problem solved.
It
Okay, and we have
looks. Yep.
7 more minutes to deal with by far the most complicated
Oh
model we
yeah.
chose. So this is fixed.
But you have some time to go over, right?
Oh
Or
yeah, yeah. We've got a few more
okay.
minutes. See if you want to stick around. Let's
Great.
take a look at the milestone history. So as you can see, we started off with quite a complicated group of gateways there, and then we just, yeah, straight up just deleted a bunch of stuff and actually added some end events. So yeah, a great success all round. Yeah, I like that. It's really good. Okay, let's get on to this one. Now, if you think this is the model, you're wrong. This bad boy
It's
is
huge.
bad. So this is the model that we're going to talk about now.
But
Let's
these
go
two
to.
are they are completely, like, as far as I can tell, they are completely the same. Oh no, they are not the same. Damn it.
No, they're not.
Oh
They have
gosh.
some weird differences. I know. Yeah.
But they at least are not connected to each other, so that's also can be seen as a benefit. Um,
I mean, sure. It means it's easier to delete one of them.
oh, cool.
Um, so,
Where shall we start? At the first
okay,
one,
I'm
or
going to start with just the one massive problem that jumps out at me at the very beginning, and that is if I start this process, if I send a message to the engine saying start this process instance, what will happen?
if you if you start the process, right?
If I
Is
were to go to task list and select the process and click start
oh yeah.
instance, what
How
will
did we
happen?
do? Yeah, for sure. We don't have like an executable process here, right?
Imagine it was somehow.
So, but nevertheless, I do. First of all, a thing I do not need to have is like a process pool to make sure that these are two processes.
Well, they might be the same process according to this.
But then I don't know. Oh, sorry. I just added a process pool.
That's right, you can do that.
Just
Oh,
for
you're
the.
already changing the Kavima model?
Oh, sorry. I'm in Kavima. Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
damn it!
there
Now
now.
I've
Oh,
deleted everything. Oh
okay.
gosh.
Well, see, Thomas is taking the lessons that I'm teaching to a much greater level. initially I was saying, hey, why don't delete most of the process and it seems to be fine. Thomas is jumping way ahead to
I'm
what if
deleting
you just
anything.
delete everything and then you have a blank canvas and you can basically do what you want. Which
Yep,
is not bad.
starting on a green field is always easier. But
Yeah.
no, for
So
sure now, like you don't know if you which
yeah,
process
that
should I start? Like, I don't know. I
exactly
don't have any specified. So that first of all, in my opinion, you would need to add a process pool to have those two distinguished processes to actually
correct.
start one. Um,
Yeah. So this is, as you said, this is exactly the point that initially screamed at me, which was that these might be two different processes, but if you were to try and start, if you were trying to deploy this process, it would immediately fail because we cannot have two start events, two non-start events. You
mhm.
can have multiple message and multiple conditional and stuff, but you can't have two non-start events in the same pool. And because there's an implicit pool around a model with no pools at all, this would immediately fail. So this could be two different processes, or they could have intended to start these at the same time. Maybe they're the same process, because one of the things that interests me is the fact that if they were two different processes, right? Why would you bother surrounding both of them with their own their own events here? That seems kind of strange.
Hmm.
Like it looks like the potential exists for these to be actually running in parallel. I think potentially,
There is a potential. I agree, especially
yeah,
since the overall structure, like those two subprocesses, look exactly the same, and it's really hard to distinguish them. And
yeah,
they really are. They differ in one area basically, right? So instead
mm,
of having um, these kind of exclusive gateways, so the upper one has exclusive gateways, which then lead to um, yeah, to those escalation and events, and the
yeah.
other one have has or does feature an inclusive gateway, which then throws like a
Oh, let's
an
quickly
event, an
before we go in
escalation
more
and event.
detail. Actually, Thomas, sorry to
I
interrupt you.
think
I
actually,
wanted something
yeah.
that popped into my head that's kind of important that people tend to forget, which is a really cool feature. First things first, let's just get rid of this because this upsets me. Okay, so the first thing is that this process here has a very interesting thing that people tend to think might be a deadlock, right? And the issue that's happening here is we have a parallel gateway with one, two, three, four different exits, and we only have one, two, three
Oh yeah,
inputs, right? Now,
that's for sure cool.
usually, yeah, so people immediately will assume, hey, you got a deadlock here because of the way parallel gateways work. But no, that's a different kind of gateway. The cool thing about parallel gateways is that this is a great feature. Let me show you. So, what actually ends up happening is these gateways don't even know about each other, right? So what will end up happening is we will have these two will go here and all wait, right? Now, how many tokens is this waiting for? Is it waiting for the number that's left here? Well, actually,
No.
no, it's not. It never actually does that. Instead, it's simply waiting for the number of sequence flows, sorry, the number of tokens equal to the number of incoming sequence flows,
Yep.
which means that if this one shows up, the process can continue normally, but this one
Hmm.
can then go off on its own and do some stuff.
So all good. But what I'm now thinking about is actually that those two processes we see here are doing something very similar. So
Yeah.
from an understanding, this have good model in one process if they're actually doing the same. And another thing I'm just seeing is like the parallel one. So
Mm.
why I really don't get why we do have this other timer
Which one are you
event.
talking about?
The first one, like both
No.
do feature the timer event inside of this subprocess, which then
Yeah.
lead to an escalation.
Mm.
So I assume that in case these steps take too long, we'll
Yeah.
escalate. But
Yeah.
then what's the other timer event, the boundary timer event for?
Good point.
So there, that seems to be some redundancy, or
Yeah, I
I
agree. That's a
really
good
don't.
point.
grasp it.
I love that. I love you finding a thing we can delete. So I completely agree
Yeah.
with you. I think we can immediately. Now, which one would you get rid of? Do you want to get rid of this one or this one? What do you think is the best option?
I want to get the one inside of the sub process, and
Yeah.
we should then also change like the one up here. We should then throw
This
some
one?
kind of error or something. Like it shouldn't continue to the usual end event as everything
Mm,
has
good
continued the right
practice.
path.
Let's call this Thomas's end event.
Yeah. Also, we can just go with an escalation end event there. Like also one in the chat actually proposed that going with an escalation one end
From
event.
here.
Yeah, just throwing an escalation one, and we don't care about this anymore. It's kind of
Hmm,
someone else needs to care.
that sounds good. We do actually need. So this is the first time I've seen a good use case because we have two. Let's assume that these are the same two processes in one. So this is one process, right? Just to make things more complicated for us, because I think that's a more unique use case. What do you think? So like this, basically.
Yep. Yeah, we can. We yeah, that's so good.
So now we can do a really cool thing, which is we can then add, for the first time in our last hour of fun, we can actually add an event-based subprocess. Catch you.
Woohoo. Good to
So
have.
so let me zoom in a bit. So let me set. This is going to be bad stuff going down. This is why I'm in charge of labeling things because Thomas is very frivolous with his labeling, and I'd like to be more more specific. It's just the German thing in me that just makes me want to make sure that things are more accurate.
Yeah, cool. Stuff went down, and in the meantime, or in between, we are doing logging it or doing stuff.
Yeah, let's
What are we
do
doing there?
some logging is good
Yeah.
because logging can mean anything, and we can automate that. There we go.
Hmm.
Super. So this is our this is going to catch this guy. Fantastic. It also means we can get rid of this
Yes, we can.
because now those things will be thrown to the next scope and then caught there. So
Yep.
let's just get rid of this one as well. Cool. So they both this will satisfy both of those.
Hmm.
Let's tidy this up a bit now. It can be a little smaller because we don't have those.
Ooh, but now we do have an interrupting, right? It's
Yeah.
interrupting. It's interrupting the
Oh, I see the
subprocess.
problem. You're right.
So when like the first one or the first process is having a problem, but the later one
You
not,
are so
we are
right.
going to basically stop
Interrupt the other
everything.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's change that to non-interrupting. But here's the cool thing I'm going to do. I'm actually going to put this back and just have it rethrow it. So it can throw the escalation. It could be caught and interrupt everything in here, and then throw it again and not interrupt anything. Make sense?
Yep, it does.
So let's add that back over here as well. I'm not going to try and copy and paste boundary events. I've never actually tried it before. I imagine it works, but I'm, I'm too afraid. So this is the same. So now either of them can throw. Not a signal. What am I nuts? Either of them can throw the error and have their own thing interrupted by their own error, but
Hmm.
they actually don't interrupt each other. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's add another end event. This actually is the most end event heavy thing I've seen, I
Oh
think.
yeah, for sure.
Let's escalate this as well. Cool.
We
Okay,
can
so
also combine both models again
you
and
think?
have one shared end event. Like we can just like close or add another
Oh,
parallel one and
ooh.
just have
Yeah,
one
let's do
end
that.
event. So we, I
That
mean, we
makes a lot of
save
sense.
one, add another gateway, but yeah, I think both end events would have shown the exact same thing.
Oh, that might cause a deadlock actually, because if one throws an error,
Oh yeah.
the other one finishes. So we actually can't have that. So we'll have to have two end events for this case. Let's say part one success, and then oops. So that's what that's just for people who can't read my giant my tiny writing. This is part two success. Again, my naming convention is flawless. Okay, so let's let's take a look at the inner workings of this. One thing that jumps out at me, Thomas, and probably did you as well, is the duplication here. We
Hmm.
have an XOR gateway. This is a lot of duplication. Do you have any suggestions there to maybe get rid of that? I hate duplication.
Yeah, me too. Um, so we do make they do make the check with the exclusive gateways right
Yeah.
here, no? So why not joining the sequence flow
Hmm.
and then making a check, a combined check whether all things have gone
That's an
right or
interesting
wrong?
idea. I didn't even
But
think of that. That's good. So let's take a look at what that might look like. Did I actually create a milestone for this? I don't think I
yeah,
did.
we should create a milestone, I think,
Yeah.
sooner or later. How many do we've got so
Uh,
far?
okay. I think there's one already. I think
Okay, fair enough.
for when I first exported it. So let's just. Oh, why did I do that? Wait, what was I doing? Why
Uh,
am I here? Oh, wait, there we go.
yeah,
Sorry. Ah, man.
I think you can remove this.
Yeah, I
Can you?
can. Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
just get rid of that. I can get rid of this.
Mm. But
Get rid of
still,
this.
I don't know. Do they like originally?
Oh
Did
wait,
they
no, that
want
wouldn't
to
work. That would only throw
continue?
one.
Did they want to No, they cannot continue, so they don't want to. Like my assumption would be when only one of them fails, that they want to escalate that one, but do not
Hmm.
want to stop the execution for all of them.
Hmm.
But as they have modeled with the parallel joining gateway, this wouldn't have been possible.
So this would mean that if they did this, that would mean that they would create three tokens, one, two, three.
Hmm.
Then the first one would complete. It would go down here. It would arrive here. It's fine. So it keeps going and nothing
Oh yeah.
happens.
You made an exclusive. Yeah, then everything's fine.
Yeah, and everything works, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, indeed.
So
I thought we would have there in parallel one, but no,
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 parallel
that
wouldn't work
that
for the reasons
yeah,
that you
yeah, yeah,
suggested.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fair.
Now, there's one like sneaky, stupid thing that I've done here, which people will call me out on, and fairly so, which is I have a parallel gateway here and no clear closing parallel gateway. But
Hmm.
actually, that's okay. That does work in this case because what's going to happen is because of the way subprocesses work, right? Because this is scoped, what I can do is I can send when I start one token here. As soon as let me, how do I explain this? I should
I
actually.
think I
Oh, you know
think
what? I'm gonna.
there's the common consulting use case like we've
Wait,
used about
wait,
the bank account, which has been like if you have only one parallel gateway and then an exclusive for joining, your account can be like um, you
yeah,
can get the same money twice from the vending machine.
yeah.
So there's the I think you know it. You must know it. You've been in
I know.
consulting
I know
as well
every
quite
one
well.
of those consulting
Um,
examples. I think I've
yeah,
built half of them.
yeah. So you should know that.
Okay, so let me try and demonstrate this with the awesome power of token simulation. See how quickly I can build this. And then this is
Yep,
basically what
sounds
we
good.
had, correct? There we go. Cool. That's some speed modeling right there. Okay, so with token simulation, as I mentioned, the problem would be if I had a task out here. Let's say we do not want to run this three times, but if we create a parallel gateway here, we're creating three tokens, right? So, and they'll go through here. And if one of them fails, I want to trigger this escalation that
Hmm.
stops everything. Okay, so through the happy path, how does this work? Okay, let's find out if the tongue simulation works in the way I think it does. So I'm going to just put a pause here. So we start off, we have a little pink ball, goes here, three instances, three tokens all there, two of them finish, fantastic. They both go down here and they both finish. Now, here's the cool thing about subprocesses. I've created three tokens and they're all in this scope. The way the engine works is that we have a secret invisible token that's basically waiting here, sort of. And it won't go forward until all the tokens in this scope are gone. And only one token will ever escape. So that means if this one goes and finishes, even though three tokens have swung by, only one will leave. So that works. Yeah. So therefore, this, while it looks a little bit dangerous, and three tokens will all go through here to everyone doing the same check. Yeah. So that's how that works. Yeah, we could probably do the same thing here. Okay, first of all, I want to get your opinion on this, Thomas. What is your opinion on this thing here?
Oh, it's completely nonsense. I don't know why. I think both models are do have the exact same purpose. I do not understand why they've done it that way.
Yeah, if we
I
look at the
think
original,
it
I find
it
this really fascinating
it really
because
should drill down to the same thing, right? They do
yeah,
have the
because
parallel, like from from what you would expect it to happen. Like if something went wrong, you either way are waiting at the parallel gateway and cannot continue. So why not then going on and throwing the escalation event?
yeah. So this, my theory is they're trying to do the same thing twice, right? So in this one they have all the little escalations, and this one they have a
Hmm.
single escalation, right? And I think they're trying to join those up. Now, I've seen this happen with the inclusive gateway more than any other symbol
Yeah,
in BPMN, which
agreed.
is they look at it and they think, I wonder what this does. And then they think, maybe it does exactly what I need exactly now in my mind, and it'll just work. Maybe this just synchronizes tokens or something. I don't
Yep.
know. And this happens with this gateway. I don't know why. It's because the look of it is really odd. And
I
it's not
think
like the
I
X is
think
clearly XOR.
they should have used the complex gateway. That have why
let's
not?
do it. Let's do it. Complex gateway. There we
Yeah,
go. We have it,
makes it
guys.
much
We have.
easier.
You know what? Now we have the complex gateway. I'm just going to delete everything else. There we go. Model is
Perfect.
fixed. Let's
Model is fixed.
connect to
Let's
the.
continue.
We're done. Complex gateway. Such a disgusting symbol. Yeah. So I think that maybe they're making some assumptions about what this means. That maybe they're trying to that in their head it does a thing that doesn't really exist because it doesn't actually make sense here. Because it wouldn't do anything. It would just act exactly the same as an XOR gateway. Actually, it works exactly the same as basically this. These two are basically identical. I think we've done it.
Yeah,
Let's yeah, these two are there's no difference. Those two are just identical.
agreed. No,
We can
that's true.
delete this. My final trick. My final trick. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. This is
Oh,
I'm going to get rid of all this and I'm going to make this a multi-instance.
ooh, fancy.
There
Yeah,
we go. That's it. So that
that's it.
actually implements the final thing where you don't have to duplicate the same thing twice.
Yep,
So this now happens twice.
awesome. That looks way better than before.
Let's save that. Create milestone. Better than before. Let's quote that. Thomas 2022. Okay.
Oh yeah, famous
Great.
last comments.
Let's let's never forget. Okay, show the milestone history of this, and
Hmm.
we see that we started with the initial draft, which was this one, and then we turned that into this. That is
Perfect.
quite a jump. We did a really
Yeah,
good job there.
yeah. That's a big reduction of complexity. Agreed.
Mm. It's a better way of saying it
Great.
than I deleted loads of things, but that's really really good. Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think we've done it, Thomas. I
Yeah.
think we managed to actually go through the four models, and we almost didn't run out of time.
Yeah, and we actually thought about having a backup, using some other models live from our forum to do the
What's going on now?
exact
Hold
same
on.
thing. Hmm?
Let's see what's there. I did see one earlier. Let's take a look at it.
Oh yeah. Do you want to continue? Then I'm also already switched back to the interview mode, but I'm happy to check it. I think
I want
it
to.
should be very quick, right?
Yeah, let's take a look at like. There's got to be a model here
Oh yeah.
that
There
wants
you
some
are.
attention.
Hmm.
Can you review my process? Sounds like a perfect solution. Oh, this one's great. Okay, so
Ooh.
this Alexander Bright has posted this question not only in the forum, not only in the but also in the Slack channel as well. So they really want an answer to this question. So I think this is a good person to help. So glancing at this, do you see any particular issues?
I need to resize it because I only see it in my streaming preview, and my
Oh,
machine
sure,
is slightly dying at the moment, or the whole time,
no
due
problem.
to which I'm a bit
So
delayed.
I can actually just read a quick thing about this. So
Oh yeah.
this person says, "Dear colleagues," which I think is very nice, with exclamation points. So I like Alex's enthusiasm. Could you review my diagram? Do you consider it correct? Good question. The most things I have doubts about is when the subprocess throws a message to the process within the same pool. Is that okay? I can immediately tell you that is not okay. I know because I answered the question down here. So now, what is the problem here? So actually, this model is almost perfectly fine. Actually, it's really close to being a perfectly reasonable model. The only problem is that classic issue of this message event, I think, is intended to be caught by here,
Ooh.
right?
But how is the event-based subprocess overall triggered?
By the message event, by a non-interrupting message event.
Coming from outside of the world. Okay.
Yeah, from outside
Uh,
the scope somewhere. So
outside
it's
the
it's a
scope. Okay.
status update from somewhere, which is a really common use case for the event sub process. So this is not unusual. The issue is that once the message, so the idea is like, let's say this user is working on a task, and then this status update comes in, and someone looks at it and think this status is such a change that we're going to actually kill the process. In
Mm-hmm.
which case, the gateway goes here, it triggers this message, which should
Message.
then trigger this,
Yeah.
and then should kill the
Yeah.
whatever's going on, and then we go into here and then continue. That almost works, except it doesn't. Yeah, do you want to explain why, Thomas?
As you've mentioned, like you are in the same scope here, and throwing the message event wouldn't like work, right?
Hmm.
Um,
It wouldn't work, but also there's a few other bits and pieces, like you can't throw a message to yourself for a start.
yep.
What other suggestions do you think we should go with? What's your initial
Hmm. I would say when there's some kind of interrupt message, I would continue with another event-based subprocess. So I would throw like an error event and then continue from then on, or I would be very strict. I would maybe just, hey, why not? Yeah, that should be fine. Why not just saying like throwing an event, capturing this event at the boundary of the subprocess, and then you can continue from the starting or from the starting point of the subprocess because you don't
Well, I guess
require
they
the.
need the problem is they need to keep the data because they actually
Do
do another
they?
task in here.
Okay. Oh
So we
yeah. Oh, I
can't
do see. Mm,
yeah, we can't actually quit out of it. We need to throw something that is caught by this boundary event. My initial thoughts were conditional event or a signal. Either
yeah.
or should probably do the trick.
Yep. Let's go with the signal one.
You think signal?
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
And people should mention when you're using signal events, they're dangerous. They break everything. So signal events, unlike messages, are broadcasts, which means if you're running lots and lots of instances and this sends a signal, by default, it is going to hit everything, right? So it's going to trigger every single instance, which is almost the most unlikely scenario here. But you can fix that by using the name of the signal as a variable that it gets generated when you start the process, making the signal unique to the instance. And that way it'll only ever trigger
Mm-hmm.
the instance it's in. So that would work.
Cool.
Okay, I think we did it. I think we can now say we have helped enough people
For
with
today,
BPMN
yeah.
models.
I think.
Hopefully that was useful.
Yeah. Let's see.
I'll
So
stop
if you
sharing.
have any feedback, people, feel free to send it over. For sure, the next time we'll do something like this, I make sure that my machine is capable of running a live stream to Twitch, which it's certainly not. Everything is on my end very delayed, so I'm very sorry about that. Um, it's very weird just looking onto the screen, seeing myself and you being exact on time, myself not. Yeah, weird times.
Well,
Cool.
yeah, I think it went quite well. I think you well, I couldn't actually see you at all while I was doing it, so I assumed that I could hear you quite well. So that was good.
At least
Um,
something. I mean,
yeah.
the people, the viewers of ours need to cope with me being out of sync, so we shouldn't care too much about it. Yeah, but hope you liked it. Um, and with having
Send us
said
your
so,
models.
Yeah, send your models. We need some. Since I think it went quite well, we can also think about doing another episode of this, especially
Yeah,
since
for sure.
it doesn't require much preparation. We can just go online and do stuff. And also, if other people would like to join and join the roast of other BPMN models and try to fix them, feel free to reach out. I think up to 4 participants can join, as long as my CPU can handle this. So yeah, let's see. Cool. It was
Yep.
fun having you all here. With having said so, I think we are good for the day. So, should we sum it up?
Make better models, folks. But if you can't, ask us how to do it, and we'll probably give you some good advice.
Agreed. Cool. Then enjoy your day and see you soon. Bye.
Cheerio, folks. Bye bye.